Right, you're listening to the Technically Challenged Why So Technical. I am the Mud King. This is Gatoon with me. We do this hopefully every Thursday. Sometimes we're off when real life gets in the way, like it did last week. How are you doing, Gatoon?
I'm doing just fine. How are you doing, man?
I've been perpetually sick for the last, three, maybe four episodes, but which spans like a month of time. So, other than that, I'm doing well. How was your holiday?
Oh, my holiday's not doing too bad. Actually, I had a fantastic Christmas since we haven't even had a show since Christmas.
Yeah, that's true. As I get closer to the camera there. Tell me about it.
Um, it's I was able to get a whole bunch of stuff that I literally didn't expect to get myself of. Um, okay, I was just
Nice.
hearing an echo of myself, so here's the another technical issue that we ran into already today.
Yeah,
So, no, I was actually I only asked for gift cards this year, and that's all I was given, which was fantastic because I got a lot of dollars worth of Amazon gift cards, and
nice.
I ended up buying a bunch of stuff that I really wanted, and it was really fantastic. I mean, it actually worked out really well. So,
That's cool.
mostly gaming gear actually, and actually have my brand new Steam controller that
Oh,
actually
cool.
just arrived this morning.
Oh, nice.
Um, so, and then I've got a new CH Products HOTAS, which is hands-on throttle and stick
Mm,
with a rudder pedal set that I
that's
upgraded
cool.
to from my previous set that I wasn't as happy with. Just wasn't as happy with.
So, what do you do with the old one? Will you put that into an alternate setup, or do you sell it? What's your plan?
Right now I'm just gonna hang on to it for just a short time and see what see how this works out. So far, I'm loving the new setup so much better than the previous one. I could just never get comfortable with the other one, and very comfortable with this one already, only
Cool.
after a short week. So I'll probably sell it out, maybe even part it out because people have problems with like one piece or another piece of their system. So I might part my other one out and sell it piece by piece. So.
Like to use
Um,
eBay for that typically, or
Yeah. Also, I prefer to sell to friends and things like that because I don't really care to make money on the necessarily or even get my
yeah.
money back on it because it's used. And if somebody else could find use for it, I'm not going to let it sit on a shelf right now because
Mm.
that's what a lot of my stuff ends up doing because I'm lazy.
I can relate to that. You should see my used gear rack.
Which I mean, that brings to the other point is right before Christmas, I actually completely rearranged my entire studio and
Cool.
office. And so I've got a little more space in the room, but I actually have this nice little equipment rack right here at my just off to my right here that is perfect with all my stuff on it and
Nice.
everything. So um,
Then everything within hand's reach.
almost everything's within arm's reach now. Actually, this is kind of the view right here. I'll see if it switches over. There's the view
Yep.
that you see. There's the rack over here to the right. Some of that stuff isn't on there anymore. It needs some organizing, but there's the new CH Products gear that's all hanging there, and it's I have a yeah.
I like it. I'm jealous. If you saw my office, it's nothing too exciting. I did get a new green screen. This is a real one. I had a green screen before, but it was just fabric and it didn't have a mounting system to it. So now I have that. That was one of my things I did for the holiday. But other than that, it was a low tech holiday for me. We bought my son a laptop. That was the big purchase. It's funny that's the first computer that I've bought for a member of my family, for my children at least. So it's a weird dynamic when you become the tech support for your children too, which my son is pretty good and he likes to figure things out on his own. But there's still some things he just couldn't do, so I had to help him with. But so it was more of being vicarious through his technology than me getting anything too high tech.
Yeah, I have a buddy that actually bought he bought a brand new PlayStation 4 for his
Mm,
kids. And he was
nice.
like, I know it's right there in the basement, but I can't touch it yet until Christmas Day. It was kind of rough for him. Rough for him.
Yeah, I almost bought an Xbox One for us. I keep debating getting one, but I just can't bring myself to do it. I like the idea of how it can integrate all of your home theater or all your entertainment together, but I still can't bring myself to do it, so I haven't.
Yeah,
Uh,
my girlfriend and I are actually discussing the possibility of moving to going with a PlayStation 4, possibly.
mhm,
Um, but I'm actually really excited. The one I'm really excited about is actually the new
mhm,
Nintendo NX
mhm.
console. And I heard, according to the latest updates, that's already shipped the developer kits out to the software developers for the game developers. So it's probably not very far away.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, what we talked about was that in our last episode that we discussed that new Nintendo system.
I think we did just a little bit, but
Yeah,
now they actually confirmed that it's shipping out to
right.
them. So
Yeah, so
that's a big update there.
yeah, that's cool. Uh, the other thing that I did over the holiday was a lot of I was not feeling well through all of. I guess I forgot. I bought a table. See, that's how old I am now. That I bought a new kitchen table and it came in over the holiday. So that's what I did for like New Year's, like when most people are out having fun and partying. I did stuff with kids and family, and then later in the night put a table together. Yay! Big exciting stuff. But but anyway, working on web projects, and I'm building uh, a mobile app or a native app for iOS and probably Android too once I'm done with the iOS version of it. But one of the places where you can regularly listen to our show, if you want to get just the audio version of it, is deeptalkradio.com. And so I'm building a mobile app around that where you can listen to their stream and hear us on your phone, natively with the app. And it's kind of a fun project just to see. I have a working version of it, but not something I'm ready to put out for actual testing yet. But yeah, I've got some other projects I got to finish up, and I'm going to jump back into that. But I guess I should mention all the different ways that people can connect with us. You can go to blab.im and search for us, and you'll see when we schedule episodes. Sometimes it's the day of that we schedule it, but we'll try to do better as we get more regular again. We normally have Bits loading with us too, but he's out tonight. He's got real world stuff going on too, just like we have the last couple weeks. And you can also reach us, like I said before, at Deep Talk Radio. I don't know that we're streaming live tonight just because I didn't get it organized in time, but typically we'll be there too. The other thing you can do is reach us on Skype if you want to give us a call. That's at 317-708. Go look at my board where I have it written down. 708-4500. Or you can search for live show, all one word, space 99. That'll get you connected with us audio only, and you can still talk to any of our Blab people that are listening or joining us. And we always have an open seat, or at least we try to. So if you want to jump in, steer us off another direction to talk about anything else technical or not even technical, but sci-fi like we're going to do tonight. I think we both enjoyed our conversation about Star Wars last week, our last show. And now I think enough time has gone by where we can start spoiling things, and it's not going to be a big problem.
Yeah,
So
I mean, seriously, if you really haven't watched, if you haven't watched the movie yet, and second, if you haven't already had it spoiled, you must have been living in the rock or under a rock, or you must have been living, I
you're
don't
living on
know, man.
Dagobah.
Where have you been if you haven't been spoiled, if you haven't seen the movie yet? And if you haven't seen the movie and you're a true fan, you're not a true fan. There you go.
You've been living in Dagobah or in the
Yeah.
Dagobah system.
Yeah.
Personally, I'm
Searching for
waiting.
Yoda.
Yeah, I'm waiting for George Lucas to create the special edition version of this before I go see it again. But, and you
I
speaking, go
I
ahead.
did actually see it twice, so
I need to see it twice. I haven't gone to my second viewing yet, but I need to. I keep meaning to make that happen, but it's been such a busy time this time of year that it's hard to get back to see it. I did go see the movie The Big Short, and that was awesome. I love that movie. But
I'm gonna have to
with
watch that because I watched a preview of it and a little bit of the making of and some of the other stuff, and I think I think it's going to be a fantastic movie. And now I have a recommendation, so I gotta go.
yeah, I mean, if I'm going to be honest, I think I enjoyed The Big Short because it was so different and good, and it was about a period of recent American history that isn't really talked about. I mean, we're all so glad to be done with the financial crisis of 2008 and have that basically in our background, even though I know reports of just today that the stock market was down. But we're kind of past whatever that was, and we're into new territory of whatever issues we may have, in the market now. But the way they talked about it and kind of explained this group of guys that were shorting basically the U.S. housing market or expecting it to fail, it's a really interesting way they did it. Like Star Wars was great, but I think I mentioned in our last episode that the death of the expanded universe made me sad. Like that kind of bothered me. But it was a really good movie. I liked the movie for what it was. But The Big Short was more entertaining to me because it was so different. And another thing I was going to bring up was that since our last episode, George Lucas has come out now with some comments that really made him look bad, I think. I mean, I can understand where he's coming from. He's the creator of it. He sold this thing off for lots of money. He had a lot invested into it emotionally. So it's not like you're going to expect him to totally love what Disney and J.J. Abrams did with his movie. But at the same time, I didn't think he would call Disney white slavers, which he's pulled back from that statement. But what did you hear about that from his Charlie Rose interview?
I did not. I did not.
So you know the Charlie Rose show?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so he was on there and he was talking about his past in filmmaking, specifically Star Wars 2, and what it was like to see Star Wars on the big screen now. And he made a comment that it felt sort of like selling his children to white slavers. And that's not really what you want to say to the company that just bought your baby. I understand why he'd be so emotional about it because he's put so much time into Star Wars, but they really have seemed to do well by him in terms of not giving him a lot of crap over how the prequels were and his lack of connection into what's going on with the new movies. They kind of pushed him to the side respectfully and moved on their own way. So for him to show up and start talking like that really just gets in the way of the movie.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
And this huge, and I know it bothers him. You can just tell that this thing has been such a huge worldwide success. One of the comments he made, and I get it. I know why he said it, but he said he doesn't like to make the same movie twice, and that's why none of the Star Wars original trilogy is the same type of movie. They all three have different genre or different styles to them, and the prequels were so different. He said he has no interest in redoing a movie, and that Disney wanted to make a retro movie with Star Wars: The Force Awakens. So I get that. He doesn't want to redo the original trilogy. And if you watch this movie, it very clearly is play-by-play of A New Hope, but with new characters. So, you know, he didn't need to stomp on the thing as he walked by, though. That was what was weird.
Yeah, and from in my opinion, he kind of sold the franchise short with the first three because he didn't. It's almost like he didn't put the same effort that he put into the original three and to 1, 2, and 3, the prequel series, the trilogy, and it just kind of it was there. I went and watched them all in the all but the episode 3 in the theater. So I helped out and I helped pay and help give money back to them. But I've never bought any of them. I don't have any. I don't own any of them. Well,
I
I
own them
take
all
that
on
back.
DVD and Blu-ray.
I do own them in digital copy. I do have them on Google Play. So
you bought them when they went on there. That's the one version of them I haven't purchased. But I bought the box set on DVD and Blu-ray of the trilogy, but both trilogies together. But I mean, like those movies were not good. The prequels weren't. They were poorly put together movies with bad acting and poorly written characters. But then if you were to be fair and go back and look at the original trilogy, you can kind of say the same thing about those two, except they had better directors with them and they were different. So that made them cool. They followed classic storylines of, a princess, a young hero who finds who he is, the hardened pirate type character. There's a lot of archetypes in it that made it work. So it was a good story, even if it wasn't written all that well. But the prequels didn't follow that same formula. They were weird. Like the moment that they introduced midichlorians into the story was the moment that Star Wars went weird.
Yeah.
And the thing is, if you go back and look, George Lucas tried to get all kinds of people to direct these movies and work with them on it, and no one wanted to touch it. No one wanted to come close to the. Everyone wanted to see the prequels, but they didn't want to have their name attached to the prequels from a production point of view. I'm guessing because they didn't want to be the ones who are said that they killed it. And I get that. Like that's where the expanded universe works so well because you could write these stories that are completely played out in your imagination rather than on the screen. So you make it as good as your imagination is. That's what made the Thrawn trilogy so good. Is that when I was reading it as a teenager, it brought me back to Star Wars. I envisioned the story playing out. I saw the scroll in my head, heard the soundtrack, saw the way I expected Luke, Han, Leia, Chewbacca all to look, years later. So
Yep.
my brain took care. It filled in those details. Now seeing them on the screen, it's never going to live up to that. Which I mean, again, the expanded universe doesn't exist anymore in the canon. But
Yeah.
it you look at the Force Awakens, and it is a retro movie. That would be the easiest way to explain it. Is it plays back to the original trilogy far more than it accepts anything from the trilogy or the prequels into it, and it made it good. It made it nostalgic and fun. It wasn't a groundbreaking movie. It was a good Star Wars movie,
Oh
and
yeah.
it made you forget about the prequels. So it did its
Yeah.
job.
And
And
it has another big thing in common with the original three, and that is the way the comic relief was put in. In the originals, it was kind of more of a serious, kind of underlying comedy. It wasn't like upfront comedy. It wasn't meant to necessarily be funny. It was actually part of the story, but it was also kind of funny at the same time. And the Force Awakens has a lot of that in there, where it's literally like comments that are funny, but they're not really. I mean, they work their way in the story. Whereas like the original three, you had to have somebody like almost slapstick level
right,
comedy going
we
on.
had to have Jar Jar.
You had to have Jar Jar and somebody who just complete stupidity to make it funny, and it's like, well, that has no meaning to the story at
Yeah.
all. It was just something there to be funny and not
Mm.
actually be part of the storyline. And I you know I don't ever think about sitting on a speeder and flying, in a speed race, in one of those races on Tatooine. I don't ever,
Mhm.
when I think of Star Wars, that is not even close to my brain. I think of sitting in a freaking X-wing going down the tunnel on the Death Star, shooting for the little bitty
Yeah.
tiny port. I mean, I'm sorry, that
Well,
is like iconic.
the Pod Racer game was really good, though. Did you play that on the
I
PC?
I did not play it for PC. I had it on an N64
Okay, so
back
I
when
don't
they
know
did
about
hit
that, but on
way
the
back.
PC, that was great. That was one of my favorite racing Star Wars games. It was the only racing Star Wars game, but it was really good. I mean, I really liked the pod racing game,
And
but
they probably put it into the movie specifically to sell the stupid game.
probably, and the game was far better than the way it played out on the screen. The thing, as you were explaining the comedy style, like if I were to tell a joke, and I'm going to tell a terrible joke just because on the spot, if I were to say, you know, why did the chicken cross the road? And I say this, and I go, to get to the other side, and I have to actually look at the camera to make the point that, hey, this was funny, then it's
Yeah.
not funny. You know, I would much rather have Han Solo do a witty comeback that's just in the banter of the conversation, and it's okay. We don't have to force it. I mean, BB-8 was a cool concept for a droid, but that was the comic relief character in this movie, and I would have been fine. I would I would have been perfectly fine if there was no companion droid in it. You had a little bit of C3PO, but hardly any, and R2D2, same thing, even less. And there was a reason R2 wasn't in it, and for that reason, I would have been fine if BB-8 had been a part of it. That was a
Yeah.
character completely put in the movies to sell a product,
Yeah.
and that kind of bugged me. But at the same time, it fit fit a role for
Yeah.
it wasn't as forced as Jar Jar, so
Yeah.
I'll let BB-8 go by, but I'm not excited about BB-8. How about you?
I agree with you that it was put in there to sell a toy.
Mm.
That's what it was made for. It was to sell a toy. But in my own opinion, I think that is a whole lot better than Jar Jar because Jar Jar wasn't there to sell a toy. Jar Jar was just
Yeah,
there. He never sold any freaking toys. Uh, and it's the same idea. I go back to some other very, very awesome movies that I remember from back in the day. Takes
mm.
Transformers. Transformers, the only reason why Transformers existed as a television series and a movie is to sell the action
Right.
figures. And it's still
You're
fantastic.
breaking
It's
up
still
really
a
heavy for
very,
me.
very
Just
sorry about that.
it's okay. I just thought I'd tell you.
So yeah, I wonder if that's better.
Not yet. I don't know if you want to disconnect or you reload.
Let me refresh
Okay.
my page. I'll grab Xers.
And if anyone is interested in jumping in and giving their opinions, feel free to. Again, you can call us at 317-708-4500 or live show 99 or blab.im, and you can jump in. We can see you and communicate, and you can tell us why you think Jar Jar is better than BB-8, and I'll tell you you're an idiot. Anyway, continue.
Is that better?
It is better,
Okay.
100%.
Okay. So, I don't have a problem with them trying to sell a toy with a character.
Yeah.
Because that's actually a legit reason to have a character in a movie.
Without cartoons to sell toys, we wouldn't have Thundercats. So
Yeah.
I'll let it go.
No Thundercats,
He-Man,
no He-Man, no Transformers, all of those wonderful things.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which started off as a comic book, became far more popular as cartoon and toys. Same thing with Ghostbusters.
And the live action movies back in the day, not the new ones, the
Yeah,
back in the day ones.
I have not. I know we're going way all around on this, but it's good. I hate those new turtles. Like they don't have to look scary, you know.
They don't. Yeah,
I
they're
don't get it.
terrible. They're terrible.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing too is like I need for a hold on, I'm gonna cough. Okay. I hope I didn't just move my mic there. Okay. So with a movie for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I need two elements. I need Raphael to be wisecracking, annoying, or you always wisecracking back at you no matter what you say. Two, I need to hear Michelangelo going cowabunga and things like that and talking about pizza. And
Yes.
then the rest of the movie doesn't matter. As long as I have those two aspects of it and some, I guess, sword fighting and ninja moves, then it's all good. And when I look at these new turtle movies, it looks like it's like CGI on top of CGI on top of CGI with no character development, at least from the trailers. I've never watched the movies themselves. But I love those old ones where they had because they weren't animatronic, they were puppets, right? But
Yeah.
they were those really sophisticated type puppets where the person's inside it.
Yeah, they were puppets in with someone actually in the suit.
Mm-hmm. And you had Casey Jones in the second movie, didn't you?
Yeah, Casey Jones did join it, and he was very typical 1980s dude wearing blue jeans that were way too tight, and yeah, that was the extent of it right there.
Yeah. But going back to Star Wars, so BB-8, this character who came in just really didn't seem to uh, fit. Like it wasn't. It was comic relief, but it wasn't comic relief. It definitely sold a product. That Spiro ball, the really cool toy. Like it's an awesome concept for the toy, but at the same time, I didn't need it to be a character in the movie necessarily. Who's your favorite character, droid or not?
Favorite character total overall, all the shows
Of this movie.
of this movie.
Yeah, and thank you. Looks like we had some people join us. Jacob Miller isn't here. If you want to, we have a seat open. Feel free to jump into our open seat if you want to.
Yeah, it's down. Oh, there he is.
There we
There
go.
he is. Yeah.
Okay.
But
Let's have
yeah, favorite character. Dude, I don't know, man. There was I have to go with Chewie again because he's always my favorite character because he says absolutely
it. Good
nothing
choice.
and it's always awesome.
That's right on point. Hey, Jacob, how are you? I'm not hearing you. Yeah.
Okay, what about now?
That's much better.
There we go.
All right.
Are you a Star Wars fan?
Very much so, yes. Mm-hmm. You guys?
Then, so I'm guessing you've seen the new movie?
A couple of times.
Cool. Who's your favorite character from it?
I am a huge, Kylo Ren fan, and I know it's, awful, but, I mean, he's just so...
I'm with you.
He's so emo, and so just, what a kid now would be like if he was, had the Force and would be evil, It's
yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah. Do you follow the Twitter account for emo Kylo Ren?
I haven't followed it, but I have seen some of the tweets. They're pretty funny.
I thought that was funny when I saw it. I was just recently talking with a friend about Kylo Ren and his emo status. So he fulfilled the dream also of I think every kid that grew up with Star Wars, the original trilogy. You sit there and you put yourself in the place of Luke, and you see Darth Vader become the father, and as bad as he is, but Luke goes and redeems him. Now, if you were really that kid in that situation, and you find out that Darth Vader's your dad, you're going to do the same thing that Kylo Ren did to Han. You're going to put a lightsaber right through him, and you're going to get away from him as quick as you can. And so I thought Kylo did the more realistic thing that you do if you've become the bad guy. So he fits the mold of every young Jedi that finds out that their dad's a really bad guy, which I don't think Han Solo's a bad guy, but from the point of view of Kylo Ren in the story, you've got Han Solo as the leader of a resistance against what you're trying to do.
Yeah, it's relative. So you don't, and what's funny is I really thought this incarnation of Star Wars was going to kind of do something different with the dark side and the light side and make it more vague and blur the lines a little, but it really didn't. It kind of just made it even more there's good and there's bad, and I'm not sure that I like that much, but maybe we'll explore a little bit more. Maybe Kylo will start glitching back over to the light side, but to me it looked like he was just on a straight line.
Yeah, see, I saw it a little bit differently. I looked at it as it was a really cool contrast of here's a guy who's becoming bad, and he's not necessarily a Sith yet,
you see him,
but he has more. Yeah, but he has more control over the light side of the Force. We've never seen on screen other than Anakin, and he's a weird case. He doesn't fit what you would expect the typical Jedi's path to the dark side would be. But here you have Kylo Ren starting off with the light side, and a pretty good practitioner of it, it looks like. And he's moving towards the dark side. And he makes a comment that you've never heard in a Star Wars movie, which was the light side is tempting him. So it made me feel like that's the balance almost that the Force needed from the old movies that they talked about, where you have this bad guy, this person moving down the path of the Sith, but instead of being tempted by the light side, but tempted by the dark side to become bad. Here he is being tempted by the light side to be good. Because his turmoil in the pivotal moment of the movie isn't whether or not he should be bad, it's should he accept the good. And that's totally flipped the script of what all of our other characters have seen in the past. We've never seen Kylo be a Jedi or a Jedi in training. We've only seen him be a Sith in training. So his temptation is different than what Luke's was or what Anakin's was.
It's never been said,
by the light side.
But but it's been implied that there's still good in him as far as Anakin is concerned. With Luke and his father, and then also if you take it though from it's just a trajectory. If you go back in Kylo's history, which I think we'll find is that Luke originally trained him. He was good, and he betrayed him. And from that point on, it's just been a solid trajectory toward the dark side. So I don't know how much. I mean, maybe there's a little fluctuation here, but to me, it looks like, well, this is just the end. He's all the way there now.
Yeah, I think that's what you see on the screen. What was him get to that point, but I think he hasn't reached like what they're trying to imply throughout the Force Awakens is that he isn't reaching his potential because he's hampered by the light side. Like if he would fully let go and embrace the dark side, then his power would be far more than it is in the movies because he is still being tempted by the light side. That's just an interesting, different take on it that we haven't seen in a Star Wars movie. A character being tempted by the light side and not fully embracing their ability to be the menacing Darth Vader character, which I actually end up liking. Like you said, it's relevant to today. It's how this character should be in the context of his time period. But it also made him, like Darth Vader was just badass. You knew he was badass from the moment he walked in to, off the Death Star, or not the Death Star, sorry, the Star Destroyer onto that Rebel ship. He obviously is someone who doesn't suffer fools.
Right, but
Kylo Ren.
But that point is, I mean, after like,
yeah, he's already gone through
gone through what Kylo Ren kind of is going just finished, So and
yeah.
like, I don't know if you have read the books, Revenge of the Sith, but I mean, there are some thoughts where, I mean, I don't know, I don't want to say waver, but there are some things where Darth Vader considers, just slightly, for a half a second before he slaughters people, So I mean,
oh yeah, yeah.
So there's a little bit of good in him, so to speak.
Yeah.
So I mean, and I'm just like, I don't know, I'm blown away. Like the first time I saw it, I was definitely just kind of like, wait, what just happened? Like I was expecting more Luke, and so like I was sort of disappointed, but the second time I watched this movie, I mean, it's just full of stuff, there's so much crammed in there. You just, man, you really got to pay attention kind of in a way, but I really enjoyed it so much more that second time because I didn't have those expectations like I had before, where I was like, man, I just want to see Luke freaking, using the Force on people.
You want to see a green lightsaber light up and something get destroyed.
And that's another thing. I've seen a lot of like, things about Luke going to the dark side. I mean, because Jedi, like you said, was supposed to be a little, maybe his turn to the dark side. And Lucas had to fire I believe the writer he was working with or someone that he was working on the ideas with, so that the movie would end on a happy note instead of Luke going down that path. But I mean, he's force choking people at the beginning of that movie, and it's like, holy crap, who is this guy? He's badass. So to me, it's like maybe the lines should have just kind of, that was like the beginning of the line blurring, and like maybe so I was really hoping they would pick up off from there where it's like it's kind of a mess, like it's not so clear.
Yeah, and that's why I think Kylo sort of was implying that because he was using mainly dark side tools during it, but at the same time he wasn't using them to their full power. Like he hasn't fully embraced the dark side, and he was hesitating at times when he shouldn't, which I think makes him more dangerous. Like when you watch movies with characters that are like supposed to be really intimidating bad guys, I really would rather see someone who's unpredictable, which is what Kylo Ren was. He might kill you this time, or he might just destroy this console over here. You don't really know what you're going to get out of him. Whereas Darth Vader, you knew you did whatever it took to get out of delivering him bad news because you probably weren't going to walk out alive, or you're going to be put in like the worst situation possible. With Kylo, you saw stormtroopers avoiding him like purposely because they didn't know what they were going to get out of it. And when he did get bad news delivered, he wasn't always this dominant guy in it. He would throw a temper tantrum, and that's kind of scarier to me because this week he might spare me, but next week he might destroy me and an entire planet. You don't know what you're going to get out of the guy. And I think the farther down the path of the dark side, the more consistent he'll go with the worst case scenario. Where right now he wasn't. But with the Force and the kind of the balance that you kind of, I totally see your point with Return of the Jedi. You had Luke starting to not just use light side techniques or what we thought were light side, but he also was wearing a black tunic. He looked like Darth Vader, sort of, and he was force choking and being far more willing to use the force for his gain in a situation versus just being Obi-Wan Kenobi and being one with everything. So he was starting to find maybe this balance, and why not have every character be that way going forward? That's a Jedi, that they don't have to. There's not good and bad. There's what's your overall path you're trying to go down. Are you doing this for personal gain, or are you doing it to follow the will of the Force? The one thing I was glad midichlorians weren't in this. That made me happy.
I joke with my friend about how, I'm glad they put the midichlorian farm at the beginning, as a spoiler.
Yeah.
But yeah. I was going to say, and maybe that's what happened with Luke and why he went off to the island. Maybe he did get kind of intermingled, and that is why he was not successful with training Kylo.
Yeah. Well, and I also like the idea, too, that with it, they contrasted again, looking at the prequels with the Jedi and how a Jedi would take a kid from their home and separate them from their family and train them to be one specific thing, a Jedi. You might have a different job within the Jedi Order, but you've let go of all your family connections. Well, the First Order and their stormtroopers, they're doing the same thing. They're plucking children out of their homes and training them to become, the shock troops of the First Order. So it took what was supposed to be good from the prequels and now make it the tool of the bad side. And I would like to see, like in The Force Awakens, if that title has any like longer standing meaning to it, that people who become Force sensitive, that they don't do training anymore. I mean, look at Rey. She already is the most powerful Jedi in that moment, at least. And there's a case to be made that Kylo Ren was very injured. So it's actually amazing he was able to have the battle he did. But Rey, with no training and no knowledge of the Force up until a week, the week before, she had no connection to the Force that she knew about. And here she is, the more powerful Jedi on the battlefield that day. I kind of like the idea that you don't need to go through all of this training and experience to be a Force user.
I mean, but that's just what we know. Like, she could have been trained when she was younger, and then, when Kylo, lost his mind and betrayed Luke, maybe that's when she was, put in that on Jakku as a safety measure. Like, I guess all Jedi are sent away to.
Yeah. Well, you want to hope when they give you your boarding pass that it's to a desert planet and not a swamp planet, because it's not going to go so well for you on the swamp planet all alone. You have the path of Yoda or the path of Kenobi.
Yeah, or she did.
Yeah.
So what are your guys' names? I don't actually know. I just see Gatoon and the Mud King. What is your name?
I'm Curtis. Yeah.
And
Curtis.
I just go by Gatoon out on the web. So
okay, Gatoon. All right, it's a pleasure meeting you guys. It's awesome.
Yeah. It's nice to meet you.
Is this podcast going live on?
Yeah, it's we're broadcasting on deeptalkradio.com also, and then we record and put to our website, which is why it's so technical. So there's an audio version that streams out there, and the Blab IM version too that we do.
And
I still need to get us on iTunes. I haven't done that yet.
Yeah, and I also repost most of our video all the way out on YouTube as well. So we actually have a YouTube channel as well. So we try to we're the most varied podcast in the world. We deploy everywhere.
That's great. I mean, we have this technology now to do that and all these platforms. So I'm curious, can people follow you on Twitter also at the Mud King, or is that where they follow you at?
Yeah, you can follow me at the Mud King. He's at Gatoon, but we also have a group account at Why So Technical using just the letter Y. So just letter Y, So Technical. On Twitter, you can follow us there also.
Okay. Well, I'm that Jacob Aaron on Twitter and Blab. So
cool. Yes, I'm following it. Everyone follow him. He has some great ideas there.
Yeah, absolutely. The second time I got to see it, one of my favorite points of the movie the second time around is when Kylo Ren is interrogating Rey, and he goes, "I see an island and an ocean," and I'm like, "Well, that's the freaking end of the movie right there."
Yeah.
They just told me what happened.
Yep, and that vision. I don't know if you guys heard Yoda's voice in the vision. I can't remember what he said,
Mhm.
but I remember hearing distinctly like Yoda's voice like off, like in the distance a little bit.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that that vision's really interesting. Like some people say it could be the past, like what's already happened, like that was the point when Kylo betrayed Luke and all that kind of stuff, or it could be the future. Do you guys
Well, have you heard the story that came out recently? One of the art directors for The Force Awakens was asked about that on some panel and said that that scene, people were confusing it, thinking it was Kylo Ren. And this person, didn't write the story and didn't direct it. It's not J.J. Abrams. This is just someone who's involved in the art direction part of it. But said that in the script, that scene was Kylo Ren and the Knights of Ren, and it didn't explain when the scene took place, but that it wasn't the destruction of a Jedi Academy, and said that it was made clear that in the text of the script, Kylo didn't kill any like younglings or anything.
right?
That there's more to be talked about it.
Like,
But I looked at that scene,
converted
and
people and left. Like it wasn't like he just went nuts like Anakin.
yeah, or that scene. If you, I haven't seen it a second time. I need to go back and watch it because I'm sure there's so many more things I'll pick up on it. But from what I remember, the way Rey is in that scene, that could be a vision of the future. Maybe those two are going to. You're going to see Rey versus the Knights of Ren, and you're going to have Luke there too. That might have been a vision of something that hasn't happened yet.
Very true.
Yeah, I mean, I was
I
really
think it's
surprised to
important.
see Luke's hand completely metal instead of the realistic looking hand he had in Empire. So, do you have thoughts on that? Like, what happened? Like, it melted off, or
Yeah, you know what I would love? Like, I have no backstory to go by on this, but what I'd love to find out is in battle with Kylo Ren, I'd love to see a scene where Kylo uses the Force to pull that fake skin off of it and basically expose his hand. I'd love that to be the way it is, rather than something more mundane. Like, yeah, I hope it's that and not that he just ran out of credit, so he wasn't able to buy more synthetic skin or something. But I would love to see that scene where you see his hand just start to get pulled off, and
yeah,
and then that's a reminder of his failure going forward. What do you think?
That would be a good one. I liked seeing it because that kind of bring back the whole point that hey, I lost my hand in the fight, and I don't care to cover it up. I want to remember and that kind of stuff, and maybe he was walking around for a lot of years like that. Maybe he just decided one day he goes, I want to remember my failures, so I pulled it off, or maybe when the whole Jedi training thing failed, he pulls it off himself because he goes, I failed, and throws it away and go, I don't want to remember all of that. So
yeah,
maybe,
or it's a reminder of Vader too.
or maybe it got chopped off again. Like maybe freaking Kylo chopped it off again.
That would be a good way. I would accept that too, rather than just have the synthetic skin pulled off. Instead, have it destroyed in battle. That'd be cool too.
Yeah, have it cut.
The one
have
thing,
it cut like up here this time, and not like down here at the wrist. Get it all the way up by the elbow, so he has a half an arm.
well, if you go back and watch Revenge of the Sith, there's several scenes where Anakin's walking around without any kind of covering, because normally he'd wear that glove thing over. But there's multiple scenes where he's just walking around with a robotic hand like it's no big deal. And so yeah, why not? Yeah, why not embrace that if you're Luke too? But I like the idea that that robotic hand is always going to be a tie to the fact he's becoming Darth Vader, whether he wants to or not. And it's just the path he has to go down. And yeah, so what do you guys think about Luke's presence in the movies going forward? Is he a good presence, or is he going to be a bad presence?
I mean,
Like light or dark?
Like his influence on the Star Wars world now that he is at the end of it. He comes into it now, rather than the whole movie basically was where in the world is Carmen Luke Skywalker. Instead of that, now he is a big part of it. So he could either be the Jedi who is going to train Rey into being the next step in the Jedi Order, or maybe he's trying to remove himself from the situation completely and so he's a reluctant member of the story going forward, or he actually is negative. Maybe he is a Sith Lord. I kept thinking in the back of my mind as I'm watching it, he could be Snoke. This whole time he could have gone to hide specifically so he could use this avatar that kind of looks like the Emperor, but not exactly. And you could tell that Kylo Ren had never actually seen him face to face. And wouldn't it be ironic if at the end of the movie he got exactly what he wanted and having Rey come to him? Like, he'd already decided that she would be a better candidate going forward than Ren, who hasn't fully embraced the dark side to this point. So his plan, and I'm just guessing here, making up stuff as I go along, but maybe he thought Kylo Ren was a failure, so let his failure bring Rey to him, and then he'd kill Ren. But now Ren has embraced the dark side and is maybe a more powerful character, but he's already got, Luke has Rey. She's there. He can train her to be the new Sith apprentice.
I mean, that's wild. That's totally wild. And I would have to just argue against that based on nobody. They haven't done that. Like, look, I'm really this person underneath the mask that much, except for maybe Leia. And he also was dressed in what looked like more traditional Jedi garb. So I mean, I could be wrong, but it looked to me like he was trying to be more like Ben, just like hide out. And I'm not really sure what he's doing, but communing with the Force or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean, from a plot standpoint, other than to find him, it doesn't make any sense what his motivation for abandoning his friends and running away. Just doesn't.
Yeah. What do you think, Gatun? Am I crazy?
You're always crazy.
True. Okay. Well, how badly crazy on this one? What do you think Luke's plan is?
No idea. I'm trying not to speculate on the next movies or what's going forward because I really want to just be there and be surprised about it. So,
but we're so far off. Like the best idea we have, isn't going to be what's on screen.
Probably not.
So it's fine. Stay on target. 42. Sure, jump on in. We have an open team.
He asked a question. Do you guys think that Rey understanding Chewie is a significant thing?
I am Dan Miller. How are you?
Hello.
Hi, Dan.
I have been waiting to talk to some other fans about this because I've been listening to podcast after podcast after podcast, and yet nobody has seemed to mention that, yeah, he understands you too, so you better watch what you say. Because Rey understood Chewie, and in the comic books that are canon now, the girl and people that run into Chewie don't even know what a Wookiee is because Wookiees seem to be very rare in the galaxy since the Clone Wars. Not only that, only 1-2 people we know understand them throughout the movies, Han and Yoda. How does Rey understand Chewie?
That totally went right over my head
I
watching the
think
movie, but it's a great point.
I think it was put there that subtle to go over people's heads. I think it was meant to be subtle like that because everybody is so driven towards Luke. But why does she understand Chewie? Why was the Falcon on Jakku?
Yeah. I mean, maybe they know each other, that could even be possible.
I have as many questions as all of you guys.
I mean,
and
it was obvious, Han Solo's reaction to her. Oh, by the way, I'll give you a job, that he knows who she is, and that to me was like, oh shit.
Some of the reactions, even when they first met, were kind of like he looks at her like weirdly and things like that. It's like he goes, "Yeah, I know you should know the Force. I know." It's almost like
He was trying to be reserved about knowing who she was.
So the question is we never do find out who her parents are. So who are her parents?
Yeah.
Well, really quick, before we go to that direction, it has to make you think the people who, rather than talk about her parents, the people who left her on Jakku, because that doesn't necessarily have to be her parents. Going back to what Jacob had said, maybe she was dropped there after Kylo went on his rampage. Maybe it was Han that put her there. It's not his child. I don't think that she's a Solo. and unless they really are going to play into the expanded universe, which I really would like them to do. And she was a twin. I mean, it drives me crazy that the expanded universe has done what's been done to it. I was sad about that while I was happy about the movie.
Yeah, I mean,
but
yeah,
I could see a Luke Skywalker daughter.
That's too obvious, though. I think
it is, but it's so
gotta
obvious
be
you would forget about it. You would cast it off.
Kenobi. She's the Kenobi grandchild.
Kenobi grandchild.
I'm telling you now.
See, I've heard the Kenobi theory, and the only thing I have against the Kenobi theory was that Kenobi was in love with only one woman, was the Duchess of Mandalore. She died, and he was the only woman that he would have left the Jedi Order for and everything he stood for. And
was that in the Clone Wars?
Yeah. And
was that ever played out?
And it's the only reason why I stand by that kind of stuff is because they deemed it as canon. And these guys, Dave Filoni, who wrote that and who directed that and the new Rebels show that's out, he's in there with these people during these during these story discussions, and they're all collaborating together. So I'm only just trying to pull together what I know from canon. I am an expanded universe nut myself. I have read so many books. Let me tell you, man, I love Thrawn.
Oh, me too.
You know what I mean? Like that is my own other world that I just love going into. Really, I do. But I'm just trying to separate. And it took a long time to separate myself from the expanded universe. But I was able to try to pull some things together, like what Lucas wanted to do, and would JJ, pay some homage to him by going in his direction a little bit. That's
pulling it at least.
Yeah. So I just think that if they are going to try to stay true to canon, that if they tried to play it off that Kenobi had like one love, I just want to know who.
So here's how I would play out the Kenobi scenario. Kenobi as the grandfather. And I'm going to do this from the point of view of people making movies and wanting to build a new canon out of it as much as it makes sense to me story-wise. The first part is they want to create spin-off movies of Kenobi. And Ewan McGregor's already said he's interested in doing it. So, I'm so glad they picked him to be that, someone who loves Star Wars as much as he does, because, he's just crazy about nice. Yes. So there's so many stories to be told in that time of his seclusion, and obviously Obi-Wan was dedicated to the Force. So if in a Force vision he realized that he needed to have offspring and another legacy to support, counterbalance basically the Skywalker legacy, I think he would have done that, even if he's not completely in love. Maybe it's a clone. Like I would even be willing to say that he was cloned rather than falling in love with somebody. But let's go ahead and just assume in this what if scenario that there's going to be a spin-off movie that explains why, and it'll take place probably between the second movie and third of the Star Wars trilogy that's out now. So
have you guys read the Star Wars comics? Like
I haven't read the new ones. I'm still in mourning of my expanded universe becoming Legends. Yeah. So I don't know if I'm ready to invest in all of it yet. I mean, I will at some point.
I have the first few issues. Yeah.
Did you read Did you read the one that was all about Kenobi being on Tatooine watching over Luke?
No.
Is that the comic or the book?
It's a standalone comic, and it's Luke finds a journal of Obi-Wan Kenobi's, and it's a story from his journal. Okay. And it's like it's part of the Star Wars, like, I think it's like, I'll have to dig up the number, but it's separate from the rest of the story in the actual comic book, thread that's going on. And it's just one comic book that's about Kenobi on Tatooine, a little old, Luke is adolescent, and Obi-Wan is starting to go gray. A little bit, but it still looks a little Ewan, not as much. Wow, he's fleeting my mind. Oh my God, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
I can't believe that just happened.
Really quick, not to cut you off, but did you notice or did you hear that they took Alec Guinness and Ewan McGregor's voice and mixed together? So it was both of them that were being, because I think that's important too, that they're trying to say that the story hasn't been told of that in between period yet. But sorry,
no. That's you're right. It's like I can't wait for them to like, and that's what I'm hoping is that the movie that they come out with, like you were saying, between the two. Well, this one's actually, I guess, would be before 4. Between 3 and 4, like Kenobi just watching over Luke. But that would be cool if we got a little piece of that, like seeing maybe a little snippet of a young Luke Skywalker. Him running into Owen Lars, getting into maybe a fist fight or something. Stay away from my kid.
Yeah, find out why he dislikes him so much. And to continue the story about, or the idea why she has a connection to Kenobi, go back to when Yoda said there is another. Back in, that was in Return of the Jedi that he says that?
Yeah.
It is, isn't it? Yeah. It was right before he leaves to go back to confront Vader. But anyway, when he does that, it makes it seem like he's talking about Leia, right? Everyone feels it's Leia. Well, here we are in The Force Awakens, and Leia is not a Jedi.
Right.
So the other could be someone else. It could be a Kenobi child who's out there strong in the Force too.
Because we know that Force users can see into the future.
And it could be part of a plan.
Yeah.
There could have been a point when Yoda and Obi-Wan communicating, and Yoda says, hey, look, you got to do something to balance this, and you're the greatest Jedi that's ever lived. Everyone pretty much acknowledged that from the Clone Wars, that of all this long history of Jedi, that Kenobi would have been one of the greatest ever because of his abilities and his knowledge of the Force and his humble nature. So why wouldn't his Force line be just as powerful as Skywalker's is? And then you have the narrative of, in this movie, you have the grandchild of Vader fighting the grandchild of Kenobi.
Yeah, the master versus the teacher, almost.
Yeah, and this is the chance for Kenobi to finish the job.
The master versus the apprentice. I'm sorry, I screwed that up.
Yeah. I hate to be the one to poo-poo on your party, but I mean, this has always been like a Skywalker story, and I mean, as much as I'd love for it to be something like a random Jedi, even, like, I mean, it's so much has to be Luke's daughter, based on just the way that Maz, like, she's trying to give her the lightsaber. She's like, no, this is your lightsaber, basically.
You're connected.
So
but that was Kenobi's lightsaber. That was Kenobi's lightsaber longer than it was anyone else's. So it has just as much Kenobi connection to it as it does any Skywalker.
I mean, maybe, but I guess from just the way that it seemed, and then I mean, you're right. It could it's just as easily technically be Obi-Wan as
I mean,
Luke.
He held on to that thing for a long time. It is a
Skywalker story. That's the only thing that's going to make sense.
I mean,
so what
if they stay with the soap opera in space of the Skywalker family? I understand.
Yeah, and I think it'll be revealed very soon in episode 8. I don't think it's going to be like, I am your father. I think it's just going to be like, very soon at the beginning, after the.
You guys hear about that almost like spoiler? It was like everyone got all up in arms about the Disney Infinity game where they thought Kylo Ren said, "Curse you, cousin."
Yeah, I heard a little bit about that, but I haven't seen like an actual. Has that been revealed to not be correct?
Yeah, he says curses. I forget what he says. He says like, "We finally meet," and then like, I guess like when he gets hit with something, he says curses or something like that, And like, I guess when whoever found that clip, like they threw something at him as soon as like, he was saying his line in the game, and it sounded like we finally meet, cousin. Like,
yeah.
So like everyone was like, "Oh my God, it's Luke's daughter."
And to go back to the Thrawn trilogy, I can't remember. Okay, so it's been 15 years or something since I've read this book, but I know we had the Solo kids. Did Luke also have a kid? I can't remember. I know.
Not during the Thrawn trilogy.
Not during the Thrawn. So that's what could make this significantly different.
And they grew up in
they screwed up even more,
right?
Yeah, it was, and his son's name's Ben Skywalker.
Yeah, he was Ben Skywalker.
So,
because when I heard him scream Ben, I was like, "Oh!"
yeah. Well, how much cooler would it have been to kind of be a nod back to the expanded universe? Well, Yeah, I would love for that, and to have Anakin solo in it too would have been awesome. I think there's this great expanded universe story that could have been told, and you could. I would have been fine with
Anakin
the
was my
whole
favorite.
invasion from outside the galaxy. They could have wiped that and retconned it out of the expanded universe, and I'd have been okay. But I would have much rather had Jason Solo be the son that's turning to the dark side, and then Ben Skywalker be Luke's son, and have him, because he has his own thing where him and Jason Solo go back and forth in terms of Jason turning bad and Ben having to save him. And it kind of paralleled the old stories where you have another Skywalker turning bad and someone named Ben, it just happens to be Luke's son, has to save him and remind him of his humanity. And some crazy stuff happens in those stories too that would have been great for the movies.
I love what they did though, because they went, the complete opposite direction. The father trying to absolve the son, instead of the son trying to absolve the father and bring him back into the light, like Luke trying to bring his dad back to the good. And, this is a father trying to bring his son back into the good. That's how it was nice how they flipped the reverse. They reversed the roles.
Thank Harrison Ford himself for that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, see, it was funny now you say that. Like when all this went down, I was so excited, and they were like, "Oh, Harrison Ford," and I was like, "He's dying."
Exactly.
I said that right away. I was like, "He's dead." I was like, it takes a moon to kill Chewie. I was like, but you know what, freaking Harrison Ford, he's gone, because you could put anybody in a Chewbacca costume. Like, not to us fans, but to the rest of people, you could stuff somebody in a Chewbacca costume and make it work. But for Han, he was checked out at Empire,
Right. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, anyone who's an Indiana Jones fan who watched the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull knew that Han was going to die in this movie, because he wanted to die over and over again during Indiana Jones, and they just wouldn't let him. The check. They withheld that last check from him until the movie was over.
Did you hear about how much he made in this movie, man?
Oh, it's ridiculous, isn't it? He got smart from all the. Yeah. He finally has a tie-in to it that they should have had during the first, because they all signed their likeness away in the original trilogy, and he learned his lesson on that one.
Yeah.
But, and like Hamill probably did it for free. He was so excited. He probably just did it for free.
Yeah, man.
Well, he wants to die too. If you go back and watch after Return of the Jedi, him and Harrison Ford both said their story arc should have ended in death. And if they did a new trilogy, they wanted to die. So that makes me think, and they wanted to die in a way that was meaningful for their characters. And so I fully believe that Luke will die in an Obi-Wan Kenobi type way in one of these next movies. It's just, when is it going to happen? And so it just makes sense for his character. He's not going to get out of this as the same guy, unless my original way out there theory that he is a bad guy, and that's why he was holed up on an island because he didn't want to get caught. It was basically the Darth Sidious idea of just remove yourself completely.
I think that would be amazing, and maybe he is bad. Maybe there is a blur. Maybe he went bad, but not on purpose. Like he tried to help people and everything backfired, and he realized that, and so maybe he realized he was using the Force in ways that he shouldn't, and that's why he took off, So I mean,
yeah. Well, that's the lesson his dad got right in the beginning. His dad knew he had amazing amounts of power, and he knew that the only way to control things is to forcefully take it over. I mean, he says that in the second movie, that if I was in charge, I would rule the world with an iron fist, basically, where Luke is a good guy. And I think what you just said, if he was trying to do the right thing, but he just kept drifting off path until you just fully embrace the idea that you're going to take over, which Kylo Ren is implying that he wants to do. He wants to finish the job that he doesn't want to finish what Luke started. He wants to finish what Anakin started.
Okay, so we haven't touched on Snoke and Plagueis theories, but if you have something else to add.
Actually, it's great, man. That's something that is definitely worth talking about. Snoke, I heard. I didn't actually read the Darth Plagueis book. I want to now because
Yeah.
I want to see the similarities. But I heard that they're different species. But from what I know about Darth Plagueis and just what Palpatine told us is that shouldn't matter. He can, you know. Did you guys hear about the theory about Padme not dying of a broken heart?
Yeah, I love that
About-
theory. You want to
About
explain?
how many. Well, this is what I got from it: is that Anakin and Padme's connection through the Force was so strong that Palpatine was able to use her life force to keep Anakin alive while he was going under that intense surgery. To all that pain and stuff would have killed most, even most Jedi or Sith. What he went through. I mean, this guy got burnt to a crisp. Burnt, leathery, wrapped bacon.
Yeah. Missing pieces.
Yeah. So I mean, they were saying that in the article that Palpatine at least knew enough from Plagueis to be able to use force connections like that to be able to take Padme's life force to sustain Vader's as he was undergoing surgery.
Right.
And if you go back and watch the scene where she's dying, because that's never made sense if you just watch it as is.
No.
She's in perfect health.
Yeah, the robots say that.
Even
the
a person
droid does.
Dying of broken heart syndrome, they're going through heart failure. That's something that you can record on on any medical equipment. People dying of that broken heart syndrome. So, she was in perfect health. They didn't know what was wrong with her. So
Yeah.
So
They said losing her will to live.
Theory, and I've never heard that before. But
so, Plagueis, could definitely be a factor in this. He's canon. And he could definitely be Snoke, and he could definitely be very weakened, and that's why he's projecting himself as this Wizard of Oz, bigger than life character.
Yeah.
Don't pay attention to the weak old cripply man behind the curtain that's falling apart. As you saw in his face, he
or
looks
he's
like
more
he's
powerful
decrepit.
than we possibly know.
Or that.
He could have a lot of things going on if you're Darth Plagueis. I mean, if you're
Yeah.
trying to control the universe or find Luke or.
I have
Yeah,
this
you're
feeling
playing
he's
a long game,
con. Yeah, I have a feeling
Right.
he's playing a long con trying to build his power up, but it seems to me like he's weak, and and that's why he's manipulating Kylo like he is.
Yeah, one too many lightsaber blows to the head. We'll do that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, you see how eager he was when he found out about Rey to get her to him. So they imply that Ren had never been in face-to-face trained by Snoke up to that point. But all of a sudden they find this new potential Jedi candidate or Sith candidate, and he wants him to come to him immediately and bring her. So that tells me that, and I couldn't help but think of it. My kids love Harry Potter, and I saw Lord Voldemort up there in that hologram, thinking, I need more of my Horcruxes to come to me. So bring me all of your Jedi masses so I can take their power and if it is Plagueis. Yeah.
A Gollum Voldemort mix or whatever.
Yes.
People were saying.
Actually, yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like.
That part that you were talking about when Snoke was so interested in Rey, when Kylo was like bitching about her, didn't that not remind you of when Anakin was bitching about the council not making him a master?
Yeah, it was very similar. Oh, wow. So you actually, I didn't think about the fact that Anakin was emo Anakin back in the prequels.
He is emo,
So,
dude.
yeah.
He is his grandfather's spitting image, if you will, and he's pretty powerful too. And I think he's not powerful when he's struggling between the light and the dark. His powers are completely weak because he is not sure of who he is and what he, and what he wants. You know what I mean? Like the light, the dark. He's battling the light for some reason. It was always battling the dark.
I love that though, that he's battling the light, because that's unlike any other character we've watched play out on the screen. And so that's cool. And also in some of the new canon, don't they say that Snoke was interested in him because of that battle? The juxtaposition of the light and the dark within that character is different than if you go back to if it's Plagueis, all the way back to the Jedi Order being powerful, Jedi would fall, but they wouldn't have the same battle because of this new balance that's been created after Anakin and Luke. Well, this would have been Plagueis' first time experiencing a Jedi or a Sith or just a sensitive that is struggling with light and dark in a way that can maybe control both of them. And maybe Plagueis is so tied to the Sith ways of the past that it's hard for him to use the light side, so he needs this new apprentice to show him a new way of using the Force.
Yeah, and because the light side of the Force is good for restoration.
Mm-hmm.
And he looks like he could use some, visually, I guess. So, I mean, if he is maybe weak and he needs someone else's power, that could totally be, that could make a lot of sense. It's, man, I can't wait, for this thing to blow up.
I hear you.
Oh boy, it's like they gave us the movie we wanted, and it's like, all right, give me like a special edition or something. Throw some more things in there so I can, figure some more shit out.
And there's gotta be 45 minutes of stuff that they cut out that's gonna be on the blue.
Yeah. I mean, I heard there was some good stuff in there.
Well, there's whole characters, right, that they showed in the trailers and in marketing material that aren't even in the movie, like the guy on Jakku. That's I can't think of what his name is, but yeah, he's not even in it. Like he's implied in some of the flashback scenes or flash forward, whatever those are. And again, with J.J. Abrams, if you're a Lost fan at all, he's willing to flash forward, sideways, all kinds of directions. So I would be okay with them bringing that into Star Wars too with the Force.
Yeah. From what someone
Luke
said,
had visions, and Yoda specifically, about the future. So, I mean, it's not like a new thing. We're just seeing what they had.
Yeah, it's like with the hammer tech, with just special effects now and stuff. It's like they're able to put that imagery, that they weren't able to do in Empire. Because how cool would it have been if you were able to see something like Rey saw, through Luke, Han and Leia in trouble in Bespin. That would have been pretty cool to be able to see a little snippet of that.
Yeah. Oh, I totally agree. Speaking of special effects, what do you think of the more real world approach of the new movies?
Everything was grit. It was gritty. It felt like I could step in there and live on Jakku. The sand was coarse and it got everywhere. So, it was great. Everything looked like lived in. I'm not a prequel hater. I like the prequels. It got me back into my fandom. My uncle, when I was a kid, brought me into it, and I grew out of it a little bit. And then the prequels came out, and I grew back into it. And they weren't, the Star Wars I knew. And the only problem, I had problems with it, but everything was so clean. It felt like everything was too clean, and really, there's droids polishing all that marble. Everything was too sparkly and just too nice and new. It was like, you step into this movie and it's like, this galaxy's been here for a long time. This shit has been around forever. It just felt great.
Yeah. Well, like I was saying earlier, for me, when the movie starts off and you see that it's a real lived in world, that made me think, okay, I'm okay with JJ taking over, because maybe there's going to be less lens flares than there were in Star Trek in this. And then I had my moment of feeling, man, my expanded universe, I'm watching, the funeral for that right now. The first time they mention characters' names that invalidate it. Or I guess really when I first saw Han was like this double feeling of, hey, there's Han Solo. I'm so excited to have him back. And then also this Han didn't take the same path as my Han took. So I have to let it go. But it's a good direction. I love what they did with it. But that lived in feel of the world made me think whatever they do is okay. I accept this change they're doing. I just, I'm good with it. Even though I really do wish I had all my characters. I want Kyle. Is it Catan? Is that his name? If I remember right. Yeah, Qatar. Yeah, I want him. I need him to be in this world. You know?
I mean, if you think about it, they almost did a little bit of a Kip Duron thing with how he was Luke's first student, and he went dark. So I thought that was kind of cool. It was like a little tip of the hat there.
Yeah. I'm sure there's more that I just missed in my first showing of it. So I need to go back and see how
many times have you seen it?
I've only seen it once so far. I need to go back and I need to just go. My problem is I have 2 children and they've seen it twice. But I kept thinking if I go with them, they're going to want to talk to me about what they're seeing, and I just need to go by myself.
Oh, that's what I did. I went a second time by myself. That's when I caught the Chewie and Rey understanding Chewbacca thing, and
I like that. That's the coolest, unique thing I've heard so far.
Yeah. But the other thing, though, also, Dan, is that Rey understands BB-8 too. So it's not like, I mean, maybe she just learns a lot of languages sitting around.
I've heard that theory, but. I know she understands BB-8, but if in all the shows that they've in Rebels, Ezra understands Chopper, and so does Sabine. In Clone Wars, Ahsoka understands the droids and stuff that she runs into. It seems that younger generation, almost kind of like how younger kids with cell phones nowadays can just pick up technology like it's nothing. These kids can understand these droids because it's, they're born into it. It seems like it's a little more common for younger generations in this galaxy to understand the technology.
No, I mean, I think it's a great theory.
Because I thought that, I was like, yeah, well, she does, she understands BB. Yeah, I thought that too. But I was just like, man, I feel like Chewbacca, it's just like, it was always Han's guy. Only Han understood that freaking hairy beast. You know what I mean?
That's one of those foreshadowing moments that makes sense because of how big it is. Like the BB-8 thing, I think has validity too, because that ties together Luke Skywalker and R2-D2 sort of together. But that Chewbacca thing, I totally missed that, and it has such big implications too. And it really felt like Chewie was left out throughout a lot of it. He was there, but he wasn't utilized to his full extent. I mean, you have to think about how powerful the scene of him shooting at Kylo Ren was, because if he loves Han, he obviously loves Kylo just as much, even if he's a bad guy. Here he shoots at him and should have killed him.
That blaster was awesome. That was knocking stormtroopers across the friggin' and Kylo he leaned forward when he got hit with it. I mean, that shows you how much power that he really does have. I mean, that blaster barely made him lose a step. It just, but Chewie just went off, man. He started setting off bombs while Rey and were in there. He didn't give a rat's ass anybody at that point. His life debt. I feel like I feel like Chewie failed, because Chewie came up with the idea, if you remember, to separate. Remember, Han goes, good idea, buddy. I'll take the down. You go up. Yeah. And that Han was alone to be killed by his son. And Chewie was, if that life debt was still in service, which we think it all, which it is, I feel that Chewie just broke because he failed his duty.
Right. After so many years and so many things. I mean, these guys had been inside Star Destroyers together. They've been, one of them captive by the Empire.
Life Day.
I mean, it's, it's one of those things where he just had no idea what to do when he failed. I want to jump into one thing about that moment when Han and Kylo Ren are standing there together. Do you put any credence, or do you support at all the idea that Han knew what he was doing, that he loved Kylo so much that he trusted him as a Sith just as much as he trusted him as a Jedi? Does that make sense what I'm saying? That he knew he was going to push him over?
Go ahead if anybody else.
I think he was just trying to do right by Leia and right by himself because he's failed so much. And so he felt like he had to give it a shot, because that was probably the last one he was going to have. And so, I mean, yeah, he probably thought it was going to happen, but I think he felt like he had to try. Like,
well, the reason I bring up this theory is, Han shot first. He's not afraid to do the dirty deed. And if he knows that his son, he trusts him in good and bad. So, yeah, I think he went there with all intentions of bringing him back for you. I think you're right. Everything you said makes total sense.
Who ignited the lightsaber?
I think it was Han. Yeah, I think it was Han. I think Han knew that rather than have a broken son, he was going to keep his son complete by doing what his son couldn't do, by making him stronger.
I think he broke him, though, just by touching his cheek. Because
I think it's the only way, yeah. Yeah,
the thing was
the dark to be light.
Because like the thing was like with that part right there, with that subtle, like the way I think Kylo did press the button. I think he killed him, and I think he regretted it as soon as Han grabbed his cheek and forgave him, and he felt that through the Force. I know Han is like a rock, like a stone in the Force, but when it's your father, I'm sure you can feel something from him in the Force. And I think when he was surprised, you saw the surprise when he got stabbed in the chest, like, oh my God, did he really just do that? But then he looks at him and he touches his face, and it was almost like, I forgive you for what you just did. You're my son. I love you. And he fell, and it was like he was broke. I mean, like he was weak. I mean, he let some girl that barely had any training whatsoever.
Right, and that's when
I think that too. Yeah, I think that injury had more to do do with it.
Yeah,
I think he was more in tune.
Yeah,
he was finally in tune with the dark side because he hated himself. Because I think that's where the thing that it's sort of implied but not explained.
Well, like with Vader, Vader was tormented by himself.
Yeah, that's his power came just as much from his hatred of what he's done as it does for his hatred of being lied to, which he didn't know until later he was lied to by Palpatine. But I think the same thing with Kylo Ren is that he had to do what he did to embrace the dark side, and then he had to hate himself for it. And I do think you're right too with Han touching his cheek. What he did was put the seed of doubt that will be used later for Kylo to be saved potentially. Without that, he would have been dark for dark's sake.
Yeah, exactly. I think like it throws that seed of redemption in there, maybe.
Yeah, but if I'm right about Kenobi and Rey, then it'll be Kylo Ren killing Kenobi to fulfill the Skywalker and fix what Kenobi did earlier. Gatun, you've been quiet. What do you think?
I'm just listening. This is fascinating conversation amongst people who have read the books and stuff, because I have not. I was more of the Star Trek geek, unfortunately.
We'll forgive you.
You'll forgive me. Thank you.
Yeah.
But I
like Voyager.
Yeah. Oh man, I have never been able to finish the 4th season. So, but no, I this is fascinating stuff. I kind of yes, you can put on your Spock ears now. Live long and prosper.
Trash compactor. Now, something we haven't addressed exactly is if Darth Plagueis is as powerful as implied, that he can even return from the dead and or bring back people from the dead, that could be a massive shift in the whole face of things that we're seeing. Bringing someone like Vader back could just twist everything in a way that we...
Did you guys notice what he put his helmet into?
No,
Kylo?
What was?
When Kylo took his helmet off and clinked it down real hard to talk to Rey.
It was ashes of some type, but
that was Vader's ashes.
Was that the helmet?
I didn't get that.
Yeah, it was in the novelization. It was Vader's ashes.
So you think he's trying to resurrect Vader?
I think he's a little fanatical about his grandfather. I don't know, though. I just know that he's sticking his helmet in his ashes. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah. Well, one thing, too, that I've seen other people bring this up, so it's not unique to me, but if Anakin was redeemed to the light side and somehow did something that Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan and Yoda did through years of study of the Force, and that's come back as a Force ghost, Anakin did that overnight after being redeemed all of a sudden. After years and years of dedicating himself to the dark side, he gets accepted as a Force ghost. if Anakin is that powerful of a good guy on the light side, why hasn't his ghost gone to Kylo yet and say, dude, you're wrong. None of this matters. Why,
Do you remember when he was talking to the helmet? Do you remember when he says, show me again? He acted like his grandfather. He talked to that helmet like it showed him the dark side once before. Like
that would fit in.
Like he
Vader
experienced something before.
It's still Vader.
Go back and read.
I mean, he's an evil Force ghost.
Yeah, well, that would make sense.
You know?
It kind of invalidates the end of Return of the Jedi, but I think it should. That's an okay thing to be invalidated because he shouldn't have been a Force ghost there with what we know now. But go back and read I, Jedi, and that's a good book. It's one of my favorite Star Wars books. I
love Cornhorn. He's the man.
Yeah, so that whole thing explains how during Jedi training, ghosts of the Sith are going to try to tempt you. That's just part of your training process.
Well, didn't Kip Duran get possessed by Exar? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, and then that's the whole reason why you would go to a Sith powerful place to train, because you need to be able to handle that, because you're going to be constantly attacked potentially by the dark side of the people who've passed over on the dark side who want to come back and possess and take over.
I forgot about this.
Do you guys think though that if they bring Vader back, I mean, if Plagueis resurrects Vader, I mean, do you guys think people will be ready for that, or would that be like too much?
So the way I'll say to that is, if you go back and read the Dark Empire comic book series, that brought back Palpatine as a clone. And it made the whole, and he also, in that series, which again isn't part of the canon anymore, but that is where Luke went to the dark side purposely to destroy the dark side. And it felt like a jump the shark moment with Palpatine coming back. I would have been fine with his spirit coming back, because that fit into the idea. So I think people would be okay with Vader's spirit coming back and inhabiting somebody else, even Kylo Ren. But it does feel like it's a little too far to go to bring his body back, to bring back a physical manifestation, even if it's a clone of Anakin.
The ashes are there. I mean, there's probably some DNA in that helmet, you know.
I think there's foreshadowing that sets up to make that work, but the audience is, yeah.
And I mean, they've definitely shown us that in the actual canon that dark Force apparitions appear. They have shown us Darth Bane.
Mm-hmm. Right.
The Clone Wars, Yoda confronted him when he went to Morabun. Mm-hmm. So,
well, speaking of Clone Wars and Darth Maul and the way he came back, what did you feel about that?
Not dead yet either.
Right, he could be anywhere hiding.
They left him wide open in that series.
Yeah. Well, how about this as an idea too? Let's say before I hadn't really thought about it all the way through, but Luke pretending to be Snoke. What if Darth Plagueis has actually inhabited the body of Luke? So this isn't Luke Skywalker doing bad things.
Bring the girl to me.
Yeah. Because I think that to me, it just makes sense that the story with Kylo was bring Rey back. And then how crazy would it be if she took herself to where she was supposed to go anyway, where she's exactly where Snoke wanted her to be?
I don't know. It hasn't been done, I don't think, in the Star Wars universe as far as somebody inhabiting someone else's body. I mean, that would be a very new thing. I don't know how accepting people will be of it. But with all the mind control and everything else, why not?
Mm-hmm. Long distance mind control, why not?
There was an episode of Clone Wars where there was a brain, and there was like these bugs that could possess your body, and it was part of a collective mind. Mm-hmm. Almost kind of like the Swarm War. But yeah.
Well,
yeah. So I mean, they have left that into the canon with the Clone Wars series.
And to go back with Darth Plagueis and Anakin, it's implied that Anakin exists because of the work of Plagueis, right? That he caused the midichlorian to have this miraculous birth. What if Rey is a miraculous birth too?
I've heard that. Yeah,
I mean
that theory as well.
That fits into what we've been what we've been prepared for in past movies and fits better than a possession type idea.
So
instead,
miraculous birth only happen on desert planets.
exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
makes sense.
They don't explain.
Ray is obviously the savior. I mean, Ray means light. She has to be this benevolent force, if you will, in the story. So, and the only thing I don't know, Kylo's lightsaber, it's been said that is, analogous to his character. So at some point, obviously he will become redeemed somehow, possibly. And to me, I don't know. It's just, then there'll be too many, somebody's going to die because there'll be too many people on the light. So, I mean, Luke's probably going to have to bite the bullet here at some point, like you said. And I'm curious if it's going to be when he's head.
Yeah, well, the other thing that I was thinking as you were saying that was with Plagueis and Anakin. Anakin was created, I believe. Sorry if you hear a siren go by. The Star Wars police have come to get me. But he was created because I think, and I don't think they explain it necessarily, but Plagueis wants to inhabit this force creation he's done, this really powerful body that Plagueis can now use. Maybe he's doing the same thing with Rey, but just like Anakin turned to the good side and became a power against the dark for a while, Rey maybe can fulfill that and be the good side completely. And another thought in that, as you were saying about too many on the light side, possibly by the point of the end of the story, do you think at the end of this, Kylo Ren is redeemed and killed, or do you think he's killed? How do you think or does he live as a good Jedi going forward, or a good Force user?
I mean, just based on some of the things that have been said and the fact that his lightsaber is a cross, I mean, it just seems to me like they're going to go like make him sort of bad Jesus or something. And I don't know, bring him back as a ghost or something. Evil Jesus. So, but I mean, that's the story that they're going for. I mean, it's a metaphor for his character is what they've said. So, I mean, there has to be some sort of redemption. Maybe he turns into a Force ghost, just like the real Jesus, the good Jesus. And, who knows? I mean, to me, it could go anywhere. Except the only thing I can predict 100% is that Luke will bite the dust. And I don't know if it's going to be an 8 or 9.
Do we all agree to that? Because I agree with you that he's going to die.
I'd say 8.
He's going to die.
I'd say he's gone in 8 because it doesn't make sense to pull him all the way to the very end of it all. Because then the story's all about him the whole time. And I think they'll cut it and make it the story about something else.
Yeah. I mean, I think this whole new series is definitely ushering in these new characters. I'd hate to say that, you have to kind of look at it through a marketing aspect too, but, they're not going to keep him around. And I feel that he's going to fulfill his purpose in this next movie, and he's going to either, again, play the sacrifice to either help, Rey along in her journey. But
I mean, the other option is that Luke could be the new Yoda and just sit on this island somewhere and not actually take any action and just send people, train people and send them back out, So I mean, that is an option, but from my point of view,
But one thing you mentioned there would be a really interesting twist, I think, to the next movie, and that is Kylo Ren dying. If he actually does go to battle as this really powerful, basically Darth Maul, if you have a repeat of this very powerful character appears to die or does die in an epic battle in the second movie of this trilogy, but then comes back as a powerful Force ghost, that could be really interesting, I think. So his character's not done, but he does fulfill a purpose in terms of you're not going to see him progress as an integral character anymore. He's going to be a behind-the-scenes mentor in some way. Or, really cool, I think, would be our first chance to see what happens behind the veil. Let's say he does get killed, and now he goes and sees Anakin face to face as a Force ghost versus Force ghost, and a whole new battle happens. And I know this isn't happening, but it'd be really cool to see what does Kylo Ren do when confronted by the Force, him as a Force ghost versus the Force ghost of Anakin. That's my.
It's like a dream.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, but I mean, from my point of view, Kylo Ren is more Vader than Darth Maul. I mean, that scene was just so powerful when he first landed and walked off the thing, and I mean, it just reminded me so much of A New Hope when Vader first comes into that ship, and him stopping that blaster just shows his power, how powerful he is. And I think there's more coming. I think we're going to see him become so insane and see the stuff that you've read about Vader in the books come to life on the screen to a point where it's like just madness. Like he's just going to wreck stuff. And like, it will take everybody to stop him.
Yeah. Here's the scene I want to see, a replay on the blaster moment early in the movie where they set up that this guy has extreme powers. I want to see when Rey, I want them to have a battle again to where it's clear that Kylo Ren is the more powerful at this point. But then during that battle, using Anakin's lightsaber, I want to see Rey hold it up or swing it towards him, and Kylo Ren just hold his hand out like this and just pull the energy out of the lightsaber. Because I can't think of any character that's ever done something like that. Oh, is there one that I've missed?
This is another one where Obi-Wan and Anakin they met these force beings, celestial force beings.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
And he was this powerful force being was able to extinguish the blade of a lightsaber just by the touch of his hand.
But did he pull that? Because like what I was thinking is, I want to see Kylo Ren pull that energy
out of the blade,
take the energy out of the blade, and then redirect it or just stop it. Because how powerful would that be in the Force for another Jedi or a Jedi in training comes up to you and you just pull away their most powerful weapon?
Yeah, and it would parallel Empire if Rey gets to that point where she confronts him and she's, in a way, and swipes that lightsaber out, and if he could just block it with his hand, and you'd be just like, what the,
Yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah. Now, maybe this will get solved in the next movie, but Captain Phasma, why wasn't she the stormtrooper that used the vibroblade blocking thing, or the prod, whatever that was? That should have been her, shouldn't it? Am I right?
Maybe she was scheduled on a day where she had to shoot another show and couldn't be there.
Game of Thrones was.
I think Phasma was another character that was set up for the next movie. Like, I think her arc, like, I think we're going to see her come back in a big bad way against Finn, because in the novelization, Finn is actually one of the best stormtroopers in that First Order. He's Captain Phasma's favorite.
That's why she remembers his number so well, right? That she repeats it over and over.
Yeah, and I mean,
that makes sense.
I'm in charge now, Phasma. I'm in charge. Like he's like he's got some shit against her. So I feel like she's definitely going to come back in a big way, and I feel like if she was in that part, she would have died, and that would have been all you saw of Phasma. I think
it would have been a Boba Fett kind of end.
Do you know what her armor is made out of?
No, I don't.
It's made out of the Nubian.
Oh, is it? Nice.
Yep, her armor is made out of a Nubian, the Nubian space freighter.
So she could be a royal ship for Padme's family, yeah, or I guess for whoever the new queen of Naboo is.
Yeah, I thought that was so cool though when I found out that her armor was made out of the hull of a Nubian space freighter.
That makes sense. That's a good callback to the old shiny prequels.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and we did skip something. We missed the whole Death Star conversation and the 5 planets that exploded. Does anyone know which 5 planets exploded?
Yeah,
well, they really messed up on that, I felt. Go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off there, Daniel. Go ahead.
No. I mean, I'm agreeing with you. I was going to let you go because, yeah, they did. They gave Lucas a bunch of crap for political stuff in the prequels, but we could have just used maybe 2 minutes of dialogue, not even, of like, hey, Mistress Council Lady or whatever the hell she was on that planet, like the First Order's coming. They're aiming their weapon at us. What do we do? Or some crap. We could have used just a little bit of dialogue to explain that who these people were sitting on this planet. We knew kind of because he wanted to fire the weapon at them, but we didn't know exactly who they were. We didn't really get anything on them.
Yeah, and part of the new history or the new canon is that they destroyed the capital of the New Republic.
Yeah,
because it's a travel, like it moves from time to time depending on who like the leader of the Republic is.
So it wasn't
on their
Coruscant anymore, and it moves, and they destroyed the new planet. Which is reminiscent of Coruscant from what we've seen in the prequels.
Yeah,
the planet they destroyed.
The one that they destroyed. I mean, they were wearing like prequel clothes, like like.
Yeah, it was a Renaissance kind of planet, but it wasn't. But it wasn't Coruscant that they destroyed. But it was the capital of the Republic that they were destroying. It would have been nice, like that dialogue should have been like that. Tarkin and Vader, when they're talking about why they're going to destroy Alderaan, they really made it clear what the surgical strike that was going to be and why it was powerful, because it was going to affect Leia and it was going to affect the rebellion because they knew it was focused there.
And I'm totally guessing that was in there and will be there on the extended edition, because like I said, there has to be 45 minutes of stuff that we just didn't get, because it would have made.
What'd you guys think of Fred Weasley's performance?
Was that
Donald Gleason?
Donald Gleason. I was like, wait a minute, where was Weasley on it? But you're right. Okay, but here's the funny thing for me is that if I hadn't watched Ex Machina, then I wouldn't have any connection to him or the guy who played Poe. And watching those two in that movie and the way they interacted with each other, it actually worked well for me to really like to see how bad he could be as what I forget what his character's name was now, but
Hux.
Hux, yes. It was, so it made it better for me with that. And otherwise, he didn't really live up to Tarkin. To me, which is who he's supposed to be the parallel to in this world.
He's obviously a good actor. I mean, but like you said, based on Ex Machina. But I didn't feel like he brought it enough like in this. Although I'm not really upset. I mean, when I originally watched the prequel or the original, Tarkin, he was there for a purpose. He fulfilled it. It wasn't like he was like, you really wanted to get to know Tarkin better. Although you could argue that now. I mean, Tarkin's kind of awesome. But
do you like him? Do you like Tarkin? Do you guys like Tarkin as a character?
As a character expanded, I do. I mean, I think you're totally right with what you saw on the screen. The only real thing he brought to the movie was there was the question of who is this guy who's standing in this room with Vader. He's the only one ever in the original trilogy that tells Vader to stop, and Vader stops. So how do you get to be that powerful?
Tarkin, I'm telling you, it is a really, really, really good book. I mean, I know you said you've been biding your time because of the expanded universe being destroyed, but man, has that been a great book into the mind of General Tarkin and his relationship with Darth Vader. It's great. Darth Vader respects the hell out of Tarkin.
Nice. Okay, well, I remember, I can't remember the name of the book, but the first book to come out before, I guess it was the second prequel. So Clone Wars, there's a book that Tarkin is in when he's young, and they stop an assassination attempt that Tarkin is doing to try to flare up one of the planets that's going to join the separatist movement. But it's a young Tarkin in it when he was just an up-and-coming member of society. I thought that was a really good book. So I'll have to check that out then. It's probably time for me to just go ahead and jump in.
I have to say, out of all of the stuff, out of the books that I've read, that's been my favorite. Tarkin is really good, man.
I've heard really good things about that also. Yeah. I'm just curious if you guys have any ideas what the next technological terror is going to be. I mean, we've done Death Star a lot of times now.
What are they gonna do? To move on.
next is going to be like a family of Death Star.
I mean, I thought that planet though was seriously cool. I mean, like the Death Star was pretty cool. The fact that thing, like it almost had two weapons, really. If you think about it, like that thing could float into your neck of the woods, suck the power right out of your sun, and then just mosey the hell out. And then
I think that it was global. I think that it was just a planet, and they had the technology to suck the energy out of the sun and use it.
The question is, it fired twice. So if it has to drain the sun to fire, how did it have a second sun to drain to fire?
No, I think it can. I think it is mobile.
It is mobile.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think once you, I mean, because there's obviously some physics problems with the idea, because what planet is going to be able to store the power of a sun inside it and survive that?
Well, that's what the thermal oscillator was for. That's what they were trying to blow up. And when they blew it up, it imploded on itself and turned into the sun. It sucked in, if you guys noticed.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, it did go basically like supernova right at that point. But so in that scenario, you would assume you can move too. So there has been something in the canon that has explained that it is movable.
Did you see what Neil deGrasse Tyson posted about when he saw the movie? He posted about that. He said, "You can't if you were to harness the power of the sun on a planet, it would vaporize or whatever." Yeah,
right.
Yeah. You got to.
I mean, we're basing this on a technology that we don't have yet. I mean, and the tricorder was based on technology we didn't have, and now everybody has a fucking cell phone.
But speaking of that. The one thing I love about the Star Wars universe is look at all the things that they're able to do, and not a single person texted an emoji or actually sent a text. There was no social media. They were able to do all of this, crazy things. And, I never saw an iPhone once in it or an Android. Well, I guess I saw an Android, right? But I'm cool with that, though. A hologram, I mean, you got to look someone face to face. Like we're having a conversation that has micro expressions as well as voice communication. Holograms are going to do that too, so we can actually have a full the sarcasm is seen and heard in a hologram, just like it is on a blab or a Google Hangout, where when you text somebody, if I don't put /sarcasm on it, 2/3 of my text aren't understood in context.
Yeah. You can take it 1,000 ways. I've gotten into those reading emotions wrong through text battles before. It can be very tough.
I guess we know why Han and Leia weren't together. It was probably a bad text message that separated them.
So, Dan, you have read probably most of the books than the new ones. And would you say Tarkin is the best? That's a question we have here. A good book for a Star Wars newbie?
Good book for a Star Wars newbie. One option from each of you. That'd be great.
Yeah, I mean, if you were definitely wanting to soak in the new canon, Tarkin is a book that if you want to understand General Tarkin from the movies, that is a great book to read. I mean, if you're just interested in that character, it's a canonical book, and man, is it really good how a man like Darth Vader has this reverence for Tarkin, like how he holds Tarkin up on, he does. And even in the comic books, when Tarkin dies, Taft is left. Remember Taft? Mm-hmm. The guy that was kind of doing this as he's choking the life out of the one guy that was, and Taft's sitting there interesting. He was like the leader after Return of the Jedi or whatever. And it was between, not Return of the Jedi, it was between New Hope and Empire Strikes Back, these comic books that are coming out. And Taft, after Tarkin was the new Grand Moff, I guess, and Vader has no respect for him whatsoever because Taft is, in his eyes is nothing. He doesn't, he didn't do the things that, he knew that Tarkin did to get where he was, and he didn't have the background. You learn a lot that Tarkin, Palpatine, and Vader all have the same background in this book.
That's cool.
Like the way they grew up.
Yeah, well, that's one thing. For the little bit I know about Tarkin is that he's like get his hands dirty and make things happen kind of guy, right? Rather than just wait for things to play out. He positions things to play out to his success.
Fear will keep the systems in line.
Exactly.
He's all about it.
Jacob, what would
learn
you?
Why?
Cool. I'm totally reading that book now. You've sold me.
It's good.
I'm
It's
actually
good.
right now reading The Force Awakens because there is actually a little bit that's not in the movie. It is in the book, and Dan can elaborate more because I'm just like maybe on the first fourth of it, but I really am kind of enjoying the extra lines and dialogue and snippets in between.
Yeah,
Cool.
that is also the novelization if you guys want to really get some good inside, more speculation, maybe more accurate speculation. The book has definitely got some Easter eggs in there that you didn't catch in the movie. I haven't gotten all the way through it either, but I've been listening to it. I do it when I'm working.
That's
it's great.
what I do when I fall asleep. It's like,
That's the problem with audiobooks. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm an
great.
electrician, so I can't necessarily do like I gotta stay. That's how I keep I just keep my mind going by listening to the book, and I'll just mosey along with my work. But yeah, I haven't finished it yet, but that's also pretty good if you want to like get a little more. I guess maybe your extended cut of the movie, if you will.
Yeah. Here's the one that I would recommend, and the way you both just described that for The Force Awakens fits for this too. And that's episode 1. Terry Brooks wrote the novelization of The Phantom Menace. And that book, if it had been turned into The Phantom Menace, would have been a great Star Wars movie. It's such an awesome book, and it does a much better job of explaining Darth Maul, explaining why Qui-Gon Jinn is an awesome Jedi. And we've never seen a battle on screen, a Jedi and Sith, the way that Maul and Qui-Gon fight. The way it's written is exactly the way you would expect it to play out. Like there's constant attack of the building is fighting against them at the same time that they're fighting each other because they're using so much force power. So everything's flying around, and it really just makes so much more sense than the movie does. So if you're kind of a newbie to all of it, start with that book.
And since we are on the prequels, I'm so sorry. Excuse me. I just wanted to mention really quick, for those of you that might be going back to watch Star Wars or have not seen episode 1 and you're not going to read the book, there are anti-cheese edits available on YouTube of episodes 1 through 3, which take all the poop jokes out and take Jar Jar's character, change his voice, make things a little more natural and a lot more like a.
Nice. Yeah, I need to go watch one of those because different movie series. But The Matrix. Have you seen the de-Zionized version of? I don't know if any of you are Matrix fans, but
yeah. Never the de-Zionized. I'm gonna have to Google that.
Yeah, it's awesome because what they did was somebody mixed the second and third movie, took everything out of the real world and made it just the Matrix like the first one was, and it's so much better. I'm like, if that was the director's cut of it, I mean, because really everything that happens in the Zion part of it really is irrelevant to the story.
So that's cool. Yeah, it is. I would have to. I definitely gotta check that out.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it's on YouTube. You'll find it.
I like that.
Yep, and make sure you save those anti-cheese.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, they really need to come out with like now that Disney owns it, they should redo like some new edits of it. Like I've bought every video version of Star Wars that's come out. When I was young, my parents owned a video store, and so I have original copies of the first VHS versions of all of them. And so I've bought all of them up to the most recent. I haven't got the digital versions, but I've got the DVD, Blu-ray, all of that, and I would totally buy like the de-cheesed versions of them if they were out there. Even if they aren't official, I would.
I don't think that they are allowed to edit them. I think part of their contract with Lucas was like, this is this, and you can't mess with it anymore. But I could be wrong. Probably. I hope they are allowed, or they offer Lucas more money so they can go in there and chop.
Yeah, well, we started this episode out when I mentioned that I hadn't seen it a second time. I jokingly said I'm waiting for the special edition of The Force Awakens to come out before I watch it again. But
It's funny. A lot of people are saying that, though. You don't understand how many people I've heard say, I want the director's cut. And everyone's like, you mean a special edition?
Special edition. My wife, when we were first dating, was when they re-released the special edition. And she'd never seen Star Wars, which I told her, this relationship is going to be ending soon if you don't watch Star Wars. And so I thought, we'll go watch the special edition release in theaters. That makes sense. So we go watch the first one, and I was complaining so much during it. Like she was like, it's a pretty good movie. I like it. I see why everybody has been crazy about these for years. I said, well, I'm not going to see the other ones. And she's like, what? It's like, I will not go see Empire Strikes Back is my favorite movie. I will not go to a theater to watch that as a special edition. I mean, I bought it and I still watched it, but I refused to go watch those two in the theater because I was so bothered by Jabba the Hutt and A New Hope, which now I'm fine with because I'm used to it. But
I mean, like,
it's awful.
Yeah, I'm used to it.
The Blu-ray version that, when they came out, like when Luke and Obi-Wan pull up to the stormtroopers for the identification or whatever, there is so much stuff. Like,
in the screen, like on the screen, like what is going on? Why is there a fucking dinosaur in my field of vision? Right?
It was Jurassic Park meets Star Wars.
Yeah, like he just like spliced in some Jurassic Park. He's like, here you go. This is my special edition.
I was like, I'll support this financially still, but I'm not going to watch it in the theater because it doesn't work.
Yeah, that was way too much for me.
Man,
I was like,
I really wish I had my old VHS tapes that I had recorded off of like TV or wherever I had it, with the original edits, man. I miss it.
I have one. I have Star Wars on VHS that I bought at a thrift store where Greedo never shoots.
That's all.
Yeah, well, see, that's the thing. I've got the original. Like when you would go to back then you'd go to the video store and rent the VHS, and so they had a little bit different cover. That's probably what you have too. That's what I have for them also. And like I don't watch them anymore because I probably should convert them to a digital format because I'm nervous, as old as these are, that at some point my kids are going to mess it up or my one VHR or VHS is going to like break it, so I never watch them. Yes, but yeah, that was the one thing from my parents' video store I kept was like I want that original. And I'm glad I did that after all the special editions and re-edits that they've done. Like all I know is that my Return of the Jedi has no fireworks and there's no celebration at the end of it.
Yeah,
80 different planets. It's a better song than whatever.
Yeah. Yup, nub.
Yeah. my son, he's 8 years old and crazy in love with Star Wars. But as we're walking into the theater to go watch Force Awakens, he asked me, is that scary alien that's in the cantina singing, is it in this? I was like, no, that won't happen. Don't worry about it. It's fine.
Oh, you're talking about the lip chick?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But not cantina. That was at Jabba's, right?
That part always threw me off too.
Like, what is this? What do you mean? I'm like, this was not in the movie. Like, just
right. Yeah,
it was always a weird part for me because, like, I remember like seeing it as a kid, and then I remember seeing the special editions, and I was like, "This, I don't remember this part in the movie." And I was like, "This is weird."
It's like a cartoon. Like, okay, let's have the cartoon musical section of.
Hey, guys, I had a great time talking with you guys, and just finally getting to nerd out about this movie with some passionate Star Wars fans. Mud King, man, you have got to check that out a second time and see some of those little things. Because, I mean, like, I feel like, everybody's first time watching it, you're just so excited and so wowed by being able to finally see a new Star Wars movie that, we all missed a bunch of things on that first viewing. So, I gotta sign. I'm gonna be
before you go, Dan. For the audio listeners, they can find you on Twitter at StayOnTarget42. Is that right?
Yeah, Stay on Target 42. If anyone's interested, that is my public domain for any social networking. That's cool. I've got Snapchat, all that stuff, but I usually Periscope about Star Wars and stuff. That's Stay on Target 42. So yeah, just give me a follow if you'd like. I followed you guys. I usually follow, all Star Wars fans back. I love, just communicating with the fandom. So thank you for letting me join in and talk with you guys.
Oh,
It's great.
Thanks for joining. I really appreciate it.
Awesome.
I'll probably
Stay on target.
I wish I had more to offer you guys. I'm not as researched as Dan, but I'm gonna hop out also. And thank you guys for having me on here. And I am that Jacob Aaron on Twitter. And
may the force be with you guys.
Awesome. I love it.
See you later.
The force is strong with you both. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, that was thanks both of you for coming on. I mean, that was a fantastic discussion about Star Wars, and I learned a lot on here because I haven't read any of the books. So you guys schooled me today. It was awesome.
That was nice because obviously they both have different points of view, but lots of knowledge on it. So it was great to have a conversation that went so many different directions with it. So thanks both of you for joining us. That was totally worth it. It makes me want to just go ahead and do episode 10 of our podcast as a continued Star Wars conversation. Why so technical Star Wars edition?
Star Wars edition for the next X number of weeks.
Well, can we start a countdown till the next movie comes out? Because I'm even more pumped up now after that conversation. So
hey, let's just do one episode a month based on Star Wars and rumors. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. How many weeks until episode 8? That's what I need to know right now. I'll definitely be reading Tarkin. That looks. I was just reading the link you'd put into the chat with it. So.
Yeah, it's out on Amazon, and I didn't realize, this is the first time I've jumped on Amazon and noticed that there's the Audible buy link is right there inside Amazon now. So I usually just go to my Audible, which I listen to books more often. I've got like 6 books stacked up right now to finish, but hey, I'll definitely do it again.
Yeah, that was definitely cool. Before we wrap up tonight, do you want to talk about anything else tech related? CES is going on. That's
yeah, absolutely. I mean, CES is still going on, so we still have no idea what everything. We don't even know everything that's there, and yet some of the stuff that's come out is pretty cool so far.
What you're saying is we don't know what we don't know.
We don't know what we don't know yet. So maybe next week we can really dig into some of the CES aftermath. So
yeah, in the chat, the I'm going to mess up their name. Kovaci. Okay, $600 Rift. Yeah, we really need to talk about the Rift and VR gaming. So many things about that to get into.
So many fantastic things with that. Yeah, and I actually, you say that on there, and I was actually reading an article just earlier today that $600 thing was a whole marketing ploy deal, and that they're actually going to sell it for a little less than that. And it's just kind of
really?
To get press, because now everybody's talking about the $600 Rift when they were expecting $350 to $400, kind of dollars. So,
well, this is the first time we got to hear specs though of what you need to have for running anything Rift related, right?
Correct,
up until now, it's been something that hasn't been fully explained.
Yeah, like 3D Mark, they actually have a market. They have a mark in 3D Mark when you're actually doing testing whether you're Rift ready or not, and that was several months ago. Whether you have a Rift capable computer, and mine's considered Rift capable, yet I've got a lot of issues that in my machine that I know are causing major slowdowns in my gaming performance, and yet I'm still Rift capable. I'm sitting here like, well, then it must not take much. So
yeah, well, and I've used on one system that was designed or a developer built specifically to use the Rift on, as they were using the development tools to test some gaming stuff. So I mean, the PC I used was designed specifically around the early Rift. So, and it worked really well, but I assume your specs should have to be pretty powerful to run that.
Yeah.
Because I doubt the system I'm using right now is geared towards being able to do a lot of video stuff, but not gaming video necessarily. It's more for video editing and audio editing. So it's not really a gaming PC. So I'm going to be way behind the specs to do Rift, but I really would like to do it. I would like to get a Rift system. I just don't want to pay $600 for it.
Yeah, and I wouldn't mind VR, except for I'm kind of I kind of like my triple monitor and my headset tracking and stuff like that, and I really love that environment.
You're breaking up
so
for me again.
Oh man, I hate this.
Yeah. Well, have you used a Rift?
I have not.
Let me tell you, when you do, I used one of the space simulations where you're walking around on a spaceship, like a freighter, and the 3-monitor setup. I get what you're saying because I have a 5-monitor setup right now, and I love having lots of screens with a lot of information. But when you have to move your head like this because you're in this 3D immersed environment, you forget the fact that you don't have all the screens you're used to. I mean, it's so amazing. You like playing a racing game, which wasn't even a very good racing game. It was just a simulation of what it's like as you're driving. And I was using a steering wheel and the whole setup, similar like flight controls. And as you look like this in your race car and you're seeing all around you and you can look back to see the guys behind you. I mean, I love having this mic now on the boom because I can do that. You can still hear me. But But yeah, I mean, it's so cool. It's so immersive. Like you just naturally fall into the environment for it. So
see, I have a Google Cardboard, so I strap my phone into it. You can actually and it's less. I guess what's the word? It's less. It's immersive. Like I took a tour of the White House on Christmas, and got to see everything, and you can do 360 degrees, and you feel like you should be able to walk.
Yeah,
like I mean, it makes you feel that good, and that's powerful. And I can see that powerful for gaming, but I still really, I guess I'm still kind of an old school. Yeah,
your audio just fixed. It just fixed itself.
Really?
Yeah, you're good.
I will never understand the audio weirdness that we get in here. So.
Oh, I agree. It's definitely weird.
Yeah, because nothing has changed yet. All of a sudden, my audio is perfect again. Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
The weird thing is when you go back and check the Blab recording,
it'll be
your whole audio will be fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the problem was in the presentation of it to us, not in the recording going to their server.
Yeah.
So I think on that note, let's go ahead and wrap up, and we'll be back next week.
Well, that is perfect timing because my recording on OBS just crashed. So.
Oh, did it? Okay, good. Well, so you'll go ahead and handle the Blab side of the recording then too?
Yeah, I'll take care of that. So.
Okay.
So just as we're wrapping up here, just to let everybody know that you guys can reach us at wisotechnical.com. You can also reach us on Twitter at the letter Y, sotechnical.com. You can email us at show@wisotechnical.com. And we also have a Google Plus page. So again, wisotechnical.com. And come visit us on Blab anytime.
Yep. Thanks everyone for joining. It was a great conversation we had with everybody. Be sure to follow everyone who was on tonight. That was Jacob and Daniel. And we really appreciate it. Thanks. We'll be back next week.